Welcome back to day 93. My name's Amanda, and this is the series of Getting to Know God. So, day 93 is titled Trumpets and Lamps. Can be found in Judges 7. When the 300 men were wide awake and lined up for orders, Gideon split them into 3 groups of 100 each. Then he handed out to each man an earthenware jar, a torch of oil, wood, and a trumpet made of a ram's horn. There were enough to go around because the soldiers who had gone had left their equipment behind. Then they all listened carefully as Gideon explained to them what they were to do. They trusted their leader completely. Put your lighted torches inside your jar, he said. The jar would hide the telltale light and also protect the flame from being blown out. When we reached the Midianite camp, Gideon went on, spread around the outside of the camp. Watch what I and my group do and copy us. When we blow our trumpets, do the same. Then let out a mighty shout. Gideon's men arrived at the camp just at the time when the guard was being changed. Most of the Midianites were sound asleep, and the rest were busy coming on and off duty. No one heard or saw the 300 arrive. Then, as Gideon gave the signal, his 100 men blew a russet blast of his trumpets. At once, the other 2 groups blew theirs all around the camp. A sword from the Lord and for Gideon, they shouted. At the same moment, Gideon and his men shattered their earthenware jars, and the full light of their torches streamed out in the darkness. Immediately, the rest of the men did the same. There was the sound of smashing pots, then a blaze of lights raging round the camp. The Midianites woke up terrified when they heard the blast of the trumpets and the triumphant war cries, and saw the flares of torches all around them. They thought an army of thousands had come against them. They startled, camels took fright and began to stampede. Half awake, the Midianites began to hit out at one another within reach, attacking their own friends and allies. None of Gideon's men need to strike a blow. While they stood firm all around the camp, the Midianites ran shouting from the camp as fast as their legs could carry them. God had given a mighty victory to Gideon and his 300 men. What do you think of that? Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful the strategy that God had given to Gideon? There was separation, there was confusion, there was, disillusion because people were just waking up. Such a great strategy. I can't, there's no fault, there's no, and it was just 300 men against thousands, I'm sure, that were in the camp. God has a plan for each and every one of us. And each plan is unique and each plan is different. And what God will do for me will be different to what God will do for you, or your brother, or your sister, or your uncle, or your auntie. He can only work with us if we invite him in. Be courageous, or don't be courageous, and just open the door and invite him in and see the works that he will do for you. It will take time, and it will take you being patient, because the biggest hurdle that stops God from doing what he needs to do is you and me. We get in our own way. One of my friends talks about her famous line is, stop doing you. When you're parenting, stop doing you. When you're in your relationship, stop doing you. When you're in church, stop doing you. When you're praising God, stop doing you. Because you will have these preconceived ideas of, being embarrassed if you shout out or you sing or you dance or you do something. God wants you to stop being you, because you are covered like an onion. You're layer upon layer upon layer of judgment, and the judgment is unfair, unfounded, because God sees you in your beauty. Stop doing you and surrender and do what God wants you to do. If he gives you a beat and he says dance, just dance. Don't worry about what other people think, because they're not listening to God. They're busy watching you and ready to make a judgment about you. What would you prefer? Just living free and living peacefully in God's grace, because that's what he gives us. I hope that helps. God bless.